"The chief is dead. The chief is dead," one goblin declared. Another shouted that he would be taking the chief's weapon. After seizing the weapon, he declared himself the new chief. However, another goblin retorted that he was talking nonsense and lunged at him, claiming he would be the new chief, biting him on the nose. Chaos erupted as the other goblins went into a frenzy, fighting each other to become the new chief. On the side, one goblin told another that they should go take the prey the chief left behind. The other reminded him that the goblin guarding the prey was about to return. When a goblin covered in rugged cloth appeared, the others called him disgusting for trying to cover himself like a human. Knowing that he was the one who knew where the prey was, they started to wonder if he intended to take the prey for himself. They decided to follow him and then take the prey for themselves. As they were about to follow him, one goblin told another to wait, as some other goblins had already gone after the prey earlier. He said those goblins were tough guys, so once they started fighting, they could swoop in and steal the prey. We now see the clothed goblin running as someone screamed for help. As he arrived, he saw some goblins trying to mate with a woman. The clothed goblin shouted at them to let her go. This surprised the goblins and the girl. The girl was scared and begged the goblin to help her. The clothed goblin told them to let the girl go again. A fat goblin turned and told him that since the chief was dead, the prey was his. He threatened the clothed goblin, saying that if he dared to take his prey, he would die. All the goblins then jumped and attacked him. As they reached him, he got angry at the low-level goblins attacking him. He grit his teeth, determined to survive. The goblins froze as one of them was cut down, and the clothed goblin declared that if they didn't leave, they would die. Seeing that he had a weapon, the goblins were scared and started to run away. As he was exhausted, the woman then held the goblin and asked if he was okay. She said that he was different because he didn't harm her. Instead, he protected her so he shouldn't die. He was indeed a different kind of goblin because he was once a human too. After being hit by a truck, he was transported to another world with a system. Although he had a system, it wasn't fully activated. Other than being able to see some stats, it didn't seem to have any other functions. However, he hadn't been idle these past days. From what the woman had told him, he had gained some understanding of the world. The world was created by gods and has various powerful monsters. Humans have carved out their place on the continent with their strength. But the goblin he was reincarnated as is the weakest, most filthy monster in the world. His stats were really low even among goblins, and he could be easily killed. We now see his status window. His name was Lin Tian. His race was Goblin with God's blessing, and he was at level 5. He had no class, his HP was 20, his strength 5, and his defense 5. His racial skill was Gene Devourer. The equipment he had was a rough stone knife, and his overall combat power was 30. There was a way for him to get stronger, though, and that was by mating with girls. Goblins have the ability to get stronger through constant mating and reproduction, but they have no females. To reproduce, they can only mate with other female creatures, which is why they constantly plunder. However, he used to be a human, so he couldn't imagine doing such things. The woman then told him that after spending several days with him, she understood he was very different from the other goblins. She told him not to worry, as when the knight's order came to rescue her, she would tell them that he saved her. She said the knight's order was always fair and just, so they would definitely agree to let him live in the village. He realized she was not wrong. Even if the system couldn't activate, as long as he held out until the humans came to rescue them and gained their protection, he could survive and then slowly figure out how to activate the system. Suddenly, he started to hear some noises and realized that the goblins were coming back. He then told the girl to hide. As one of the goblins approached, it said it wanted to mate with the human because getting stronger meant not getting killed. As it dashed forward, Lin Tian slashed its throat and told the girl that it looked like the humans were here to save her. She ran off, excited to see if it was the Holy Order. As they approached, they saw a knight attacking some goblins. Seeing how powerful the attack was, Lin Tian was surprised. The knight cursed the goblins as they tore his Holy Knight Order uniform. We now see the knight's status window. His name was Loder, his race was human, he was at level 25, his class was swordsman, his HP was 200, his strength was 30, and his defense was 50. His skills were sword chi/slash sword dance, and he had a holy skill called sword return to heaven. His equipment was the judgment sword, and he wore platinum armor. His overall combat power was 400. Lin Tian was surprised as this was the first time he had seen such high stats. As the girl ran over to greet the knight, Lin Tian sensed something. The knight was about to slash the girl, but Lin Tian managed to save her. As they fell to the floor, Lin Tian wondered why the knight was attacking if they were supposed to save people and if the cave was too dark for him to mistake the girl for a goblin. The knight then said it was a disgrace that a goblin managed to dodge his attack. The girl shouted out to him, telling him that it was her. Kelia. Loder told her to shut up as he knew it was her. He went on to say that she had been defiled by the goblins, so she might be carrying a goblin spawn. He told her it was ridiculous for someone as filthy as her to expect mercy from him and said that she should repent her sins to the Great Holy Mother. Kelia grabbed onto him and declared that she was not defiled and pointed at Lin Tian, saying he was the one who protected her. Loder prepared to attack and said that if Kelia was going to make up stories, she should at least make them believable. Lin Tian then dashed towards Kelia and told her that there was an exit, so she should run away. As Lin Tian and Loder were about to clash, a light engulfed Lin Tian, and a woman approached, telling Loder to stand down as the goblin seemed a bit strange. Kelia crept up and begged the Holy Maiden to save her. The Holy Maiden then asked the goblin if he could understand her words. Lin Tian was surprised as this woman was the actual Holy Maiden Ephraia, the spokesperson of the temple they talked about. He realized that if he wanted to leave there, this might be his only hope. He then told her that he could understand her, explained that he was actually not a monster from this world, and added that he used to be human. He said he became like this after an accident and told her he could explain everything if he went with her. Loder then said it did seem as if he was smarter than the other goblins, which was rare. Ephraia then said that goblins are usually stupid and lowly creatures that can't speak or think fluently. She wondered if he might be a gift from the Holy Mother. Ephraia then asked Kelia if the goblin really didn't hurt her. Kelia said yes and added that not only did he protect her, but he also gave her food. Ephraia said that since the goblin was so special, they would take it back and study it before making a decision. She turned and asked Lin Tian if he was willing, and he said he was willing to go with them. Ephraia then released the spell from Lin Tian and told Loder that they were leaving. As Lin Tian told Ephraia thanks for her kindness, he promised to repay her. With a smug expression on her face, Ephraia said, "Of course you will." Loder then stabbed Kelia in the stomach with a knife. As Lin Tian looked back at her falling body, he froze, surprised at what just happened. He started sweating beads, and Ephraia then declared that when they got back, he had better repay her. 1 week later, we see a crowd gathered in a town. Loder was on a stage giving a speech about how the goblins had brought harm to the town. He said the goblins had used sneak attacks to slaughter 30 residents. Hearing this, the people in the crowd were angered and shouted insults at the goblins. Loder then said that the Holy Order, on behalf of the temple, had purged the goblins and avenged the villagers. Ephraia then stepped forward and told the villagers to continue to pray devoutly to the temple, assuring them that the temple would always protect their devout followers. We now switch scenes and see Ephraia. She sighed as she spoke about how the sermon was a success and said the people were as foolish as ever. She remarked that now the people would pray even more devoutly to the temple and offer more tributes. Lin Tian then called out to Ephraia, shouting at her and calling her a bitch. Ephraia was surprised as she saw that he had very strong vitality. She realized that this must be why the temple was having such a hard time eradicating goblins from the continent. She then decided to test how poison would affect the goblin. Lin Tian shouted at her, saying that she deceived him and killed Kelia. He asked if this was the Holy Order's so-called human justice. Suddenly, he was stabbed, and Ephraia asked how dare a weak and trashy creature like him question human justice. She added that Kelia was bewitched by him and dared to speak for him. which was a betrayal of humanity and the Holy Order, so death was her final loyalty. As she cast a spell, she said that goblins were nothing but vermin to the continent. She told him that for the Holy Maiden to speak to him was a great honor, so he should be grateful and use his small, disgusting body to contribute to human and Holy Order experiments. As Lin Tian's consciousness faded, he thought about how it was his fault for being too foolish. He was reincarnated from a human to a low-level goblin and foolishly held onto human compassion, thinking they were righteous and kind. Weakness and naivety were his deadliest mistakes. After being taken back to the human village, Loder and Afreya tortured and toyed with him in every possible way, never believing a word he said. He didn't last long from being toyed with by Afreya. He thought that if he could do it again, he would never trust humans. If he could do it again, he would grind their bones and drain their blood. We now see Lin Tian in a spirit form, confused as he didn't know where he was. His system, the Goblin Life Simulation System, was activated. He got a message from the system saying that due to his foolishness, he forgot that he was a goblin. The message continued, revealing that humans would never trust goblins nor pity them. The message displayed that he died after being tortured and tormented. The pain of this week's torture was imprinted on his soul, and he would never forget the pain that humans brought him. His end was one of the worst for any transmigrator restarting and opening a new life. The system then asked if he wanted to start over. Lin Tian was surprised as he concluded that the system must have needed him to die to activate. He observed that the system could bring him back to life, but he would be reborn as a goblin again. He then asked the system about his two choices. The system reported that if he chose no, his soul would dissipate, and he would die completely. If he chose yes, he would retain his current memory and system and be sent back to the Goblin Cave 1 week ago. After seeing the report, he realized that this meant there was a chance to get revenge on Loder and Afreya. He promptly selected yes, and the system notified him that Goblin Life 2.0 begins. He was transferred back to the Goblin Cave. As he appeared, the system sent a message showing that his second life had begun, and to help him survive longer, he was strengthened slightly. He realized that it really only strengthened him a little, but it was better than nothing. The system then informed him that although he had been reborn, the danger was not over. The human Holy Order was about to reach him, and if he died again, the system would not be able to revive him. This was as he expected, and he couldn't let his guard down now as the Holy Order was about to arrive. He then asked the system what it could do. The system responded, saying that it was the Goblin Life Simulation System. It said that the host could simulate his life with this system to foresee future events. The system said that every choice the host made would lead to different outcomes, and each simulation required 24 hours. After the simulation ended, he would earn points which could be exchanged for items. Lin Tian realized that being able to simulate his life essentially meant he could see the future, so he started a simulation immediately. The system displayed that the current scenario was escaping the Goblin Cave. It showed that the cave he was in now had been discovered by the Holy Knight Loder. To escape from Holy Knight Loder, he needed to make the following choices. The first one was to warn the other goblins and unite to face Loder and his men, which would give him 10 points. The second option was to abandon the other goblins and escape, which would give him 5 points. The third option was to hide and pray that Loder and his men didn't find him, which would give him 0 points. Lin Tian thought about how, even though there were 3 options, he was sure that even if all the goblins united to face Loder, they couldn't stop him, so escaping would be the best option. He decided to simulate it first and choose the one with the highest score. If he could exchange the points for a weapon, he might defeat them with a sneak attack. The simulation showed that he died. It explained that he led the goblins in a desperate battle against Holy Knight Loder, and due to the large gap in strength, he was slain by Loder and his men. It said that Lin Tian overestimated his strength and gave a summary, saying that he should recognize his strength before making a decision. He earned 10 points for the simulation. Lin Tian thought it was as he expected. If he relied on the goblins, it was impossible for him to survive, but he got a bunch of points. He then told the system to open the exchange shop. As the shop was displayed, he saw that there were a lot of weapons to choose from, but his points were too low. The only thing he could afford was a dagger that cost exactly 10 points. It was an elven lightweight swift blade, which had a plus 10% speed boost and a plus 15 on strength. It was a small dagger crafted by elves, fragile but sharp. As he equipped the dagger, he was surprised at how sharp it was and thought he could probably take something down in one hit if he struck a vital spot. He then asked the system what happened to Kelia. The system responded, saying that due to the host's rebirth, some timeline details had changed. So in this timeline, Kelia wasn't captured by the goblins and continued to live happily in the village. Lin Tian was happy to see that she was okay, and now he had no more concerns, so he must escape. As he ran through a passage, he thought about how since this was the narrowest passage, the entrance outside was smaller, so the guards outside would be relatively weaker. The guards outside were commenting on how disgusting they thought the goblins were. As Lin Tian approached the exit, he overheard their conversation. One guard remarked that the entrance was small, so any goblin that ran out was trash, and he could crush one with a hammer. The other guard then reminded him not to forget that Loader had ordered them to kill any girl that tried to escape, as they couldn't let this reach the village. Lin Tian was surprised at how willing they were to kill innocent people, especially their own kind. He could only imagine what they would do to a goblin like him. Realizing he had no choice but to fight, Lin Tian shouted in a girly voice, pretending to be a girl from Bright Town who had been captured by goblins. Hearing the voice, the guards got excited, thinking they could receive a reward for killing the straggler. One guard approached, reassuring the girl that he was from the Holy Knights and was there to take her back. Lin Tian dashed towards him and stabbed the guard in a swift move. Seeing that the other guard was dawdling, the other guard told him to hurry up. Lin Tian then used the dead guard's body as a shield to approach the second guard. He threw the body away and jumped towards the guard, slashing his chest. The guard was surprised to see a goblin and started to beg for his life, showing Lin Tian a picture of his family and telling him they were waiting for him to return. He added that he was only following orders from the Holy Order and tried to bribe Lin Tian with a bag of gold and a fresh, juicy young girl. Thinking Lin Tian was distracted by the offer, the guard tried to attack, but Lin Tian chopped off his head. As Lin Tian walked over to the bodies, he heard a familiar voice, realizing it sounded like Loader. He quickly took one of the guard's clothes and walked away into the forest. Loader and Afreya soon discovered the guards that had been taken down by Lin Tian. Loader couldn't believe that a goblin had managed to slip through the net. Afreya speculated that it must be a mutant, and Loader agreed, noting that it wasn't good news. Loader then kicked one of the bodies, calling the guard useless for not being able to take down the mutant. Afreya got excited at the thought of a mutant goblin, saying it would be fun to catch and experiment on it. We now see Lin Tian sitting in the forest, exhausted. As he ate an apple, he talked about how since the humans hated goblins so much, he would deal with them the goblin way. He decided to utilize the goblin traits of upgrading through mating and devouring while increasing his stats. He resolved to breed stronger offspring and expand his influence. In this life, he would make every man's only desire be death and every woman moan and wail under his feet. Suddenly, he heard some shuffling in the bushes. Wondering if it could be Loader and his group, as a figure appeared, Lin Tian dashed towards the figure to attack. As the person tripped and fell to the floor, Lin Tian realized it was a goblin. Looking closer, he was surprised to see that the goblin had female characteristics. As far as he knew, goblins were only male, which was why they reproduced with other species. The female goblin begged Lin Tian not to hurt her, explaining that she was only there to fetch water. Noticing that she could speak properly, Lin Tian was surprised. He then looked at her status window. She was a little goblin at level 3. Her race was Goblin, her class was God's Messenger, and her titles were Female Goblin, Fallen God, Pure Soul, and God's Blessing. Her HP was 10, her Strength 2, and her skills were Gene Devour and Wild Growth. She had no equipment, and her overall combat power was 10. The system then notified Lin Tian that if a male goblin mates with a female goblin, the male goblin will become the legendary goblin god. Lin Tian was surprised to see that mating with the female goblin could make him a goblin god. As he stared at her, she repeated that she was only there because the chief told her to get water, and if she didn't, he would beat her to death. As she cried, Lin Tian hushed her, telling her not to cry, thinking that if she continued, she might attract Loder's group. The girl was surprised that Lin Tian could talk as well. Lin Tian thought about how other goblins normally couldn't speak properly, so she probably hadn't spoken much with other tribe members. She then held on to him and said he was very kind, explaining that the other goblins just hit and scolded her. This was the first time someone had cared for her so gently. She then told him that if he had nowhere to go, he could come back to her tribe. This surprised him, and he asked if there was really a goblin tribe nearby. He thought about how he wasn't sure if Loder and his group were still following, so this wasn't a time to be mating. The priority was to find a safe place. While blushing, the girl told him she would take him there. Lin Tian realized that now he didn't have to worry about finding somewhere to recruit new subordinates. As they reached the goblin tribe, the goblins took out their weapons, finding Lin Tian strange because he was wearing human clothes. Lin Tian was surprised by the number of goblins. He then announced that he was there to join the tribe and requested to see the leader. The goblins got angry and said that he couldn't see the boss just because he wanted to, deciding that they would catch him first before bringing him to the boss. The girl stepped forward and shouted that he wasn't a bad person, so they shouldn't harm him. A menacing voice then sounded out, asking what they were gathered there for. The boss slowly entered the fray. His status window displayed that he was a big goblin at level 25. His race was goblin, his class was priest, and his titles were breeding machine, sly old fox, and God's blessing. His HP was 102, his strength 27, his defense 17, his skills were Gene Devour, Summon, and Thorn Control. His equipment were a skull staff and bone necklace, and his overall combat power was 200. Lin Tian was surprised that there was such a high-level goblin in the tribe. The goblin chief asked what the girl goblin was doing with the outsider. She said that she brought him there since he had nowhere to go. The chief said good and ordered the other goblins to kill the freak and eat him. They got excited, saying that it would be great meat to eat. Lin Tian took out his dagger and told the chief that he could make weapons, so he should let him join as he could make them stronger. After hearing this, the chief ordered them to stop. He approached Lin Tian, held his chin, and said that he didn't smell like he was lying, and asked what kind of weapons he could make. Lin Tian told him that as long as he had iron or he could make simple iron tools. Lin Tian said that the chief could speak properly, so it seemed that the higher the level of the goblin, the smarter they were. He told the chief that with the iron tools, they could defeat monsters or humans when they encountered them. All the goblins got excited after hearing this, thinking that this would allow them to eat great meat. The chief told Lin Tian that if he could find iron or make iron tools within 3 days, he would spare his life, and if he couldn't, he would kill him and also kill the girl goblin. After telling him this, the chief walked away. Lin Tian realized that he couldn't confront the chief head-on with his current strength. He decided to make the iron tools and try to buy some time to get stronger. We now see the goblins searching around for iron or the female goblin, Yu, was tired as they were walking all day. The other goblins started to beat her up, calling her ugly and useless. As they were beating her, they threatened to kill her. One of them was then hit in the head by a stone. Lin Tian walked up and told them that he brought them along to find iron or not to fight. He said that he already told them what the iron or looked like, so if they wanted to stay alive, they should find at least one or in the valley, or else all of them would die. The goblins got scared and ran off, saying that even if they found the iron or the boss still wouldn't spare him. Lin Tian thought that what they were saying was true. Even if he made the iron tools, getting killed was only a matter of time. He realized that it was time to think about getting stronger. Lin Tian went over to Yu and told her not to cry. He kneeled down, started to wipe her tears, and asked Yu if she would stay with him. He said that as long as she stayed with him from now on, he would protect her, give her meat, and a warm place to stay, and no one would dare to bully her. She asked if he was serious, and he said that he would keep his word. He added that right now they were too weak, and to avoid being bullied, he needed her help to get stronger. She asked how she could help, and he told her that if she was willing to make babies with him, he could get stronger. With a shy expression, she told him that she had never tried it before, and he told her that it was okay as long as she was willing. She started to blush. Then Lin Tian pulled her close and started to kiss her. He pushed her down on the floor, and you told him that she wanted him to get stronger, so he should let her have his babies. As Lin Tian and you were mating, the system notified him that he would be having 7 children with Goblin Yu, and his level cap was increasing. The system sent another notification telling him that due to the talent limit, he had gained attack +9, HP +100, and defense +10. After he was finished with Yu's sugar walls, we now see his status window again. He was still a little goblin but was at level 7, his max level now 17, his race goblin, his class none. His titles were low-level monster, defiler, God's blessing, and potential god. His HP was 40, his strength was 10, his defense was 9, his skills were Gene Devour, he had no equipment, and his overall power was 65. Lin Tian observed that not only did his level increase, but even his form had improved, and with this, his chances of winning against the Goblin Priest were much higher. Lin Tian then told you that from now on, she was his, and he would protect her for life. Suddenly, there was a scream, and one of the goblins was being chased by a demon wolf. One of the goblins had managed to find the iron ore but brought back something troublesome as well. Lin Tian took out his knife and told you to wait there for him. She told him to be careful, as the wolf was dangerous. The wolf dashed to attack one of the goblins, but Lin Tian ran towards the wolf and stabbed him in the neck. The goblin was shocked to see that the wolf was taken down. Lin Tian then told the goblin that it did well and asked for the iron ore. The goblin gave the ore to him, and Lin Tian commented that the quality was good. He then ordered the goblin to find some more and said that he would make weapons for him when he got back. As Lin Tian finished making the iron weapons, the goblins were surprised to see that he actually created something. He took the weapon and stabbed a wolf in its head, demonstrating its strength. He told them to look closely at the weapon made from iron ore. One of the goblins shouted that Lin Tian really killed a magic wolf with the weapon and saved his life. The others were shocked that he could really create such weapons. Lin Tian held the spear up in the air and asked if the goblins wanted weapons like it, and they shouted, "Yes, we want some." In the background, the chief wasn't pleased with the situation and smashed his staff to the ground to quiet the goblins down. He then said, so he wasn't lying, he can really make iron tools. The chief told Lin Tian that if he wanted to stay, it wouldn't be so simple. He had to make 50 of these spears in 2 days' time. One of the goblins remarked that the boss was getting nasty like the humans, while another one encouraged Lin Tian to make more weapons and offered to help. On the day of the delivery, Lin Tian brought the spears and presented them to the chief. Seeing that he managed to do it, the goblins cheered for Lin Tian. The chief was surprised and said, "You actually did it very good." He then announced that tonight everyone would feast on meat and celebrate Lin Tian joining them. As the feast commenced, you brought him a piece of meat and said that the chief told her it was a special gift for him. As Lin Tian bit into the meat, veins popped up on his face, and he fell to the ground, worrying you. The chief then came over, laughing at Lin Tian and called him stupid. The chief said that he knew about Lin Tian's ambitions and how dare he try to challenge his authority. He told him that there was only one way out. The chief grabbed you and asked Lin Tian if he cared about her and told him that he should watch as he sliced off the traitor's head. Before the chief could do anything to you, his hand was chopped off and fell by the fireplace. This shocked him. Lin Tian chuckled and said that the chief was the stupid one. In his mind, he remarked that he already knew from the system that the chief would try to poison him and he was just playing along. The chief was angered by the situation. He shouted that Lin Tian would die and dashed towards him to attack. Lin Tian dodged to the side and then he chopped off the goblin chief's head. The other goblins were shocked to see that the chief was taken down. Lin Tian told them that from today he would be their new boss. He said that he would lead them to attack the elves and the humans, have wild sex, and they'd have endless meat to feast on. All the goblins got excited to hear this. Lin Tian then told the goblins that the chief's body was theirs, and they rushed over and started to feast on the body. Taking over the goblin tribe was just the start of his revenge. Next, he would make the elves help the tribe breed stronger next generations. In some bushes, an elf was observing the scene, surprised at what she just saw.